I heard someone describe Emma Stone's performance as being like simple from Tropic Thunder, but grew on them quick.
You make me happy.
I can kind of see that. Yeah. We're going to go ahead and we're going to move on to the next part of my show, and that is my review for the very strange, the very unusual film, Poor Things. And for those that have no idea what it's about, which I imagine a lot of people may not know, and might not have even heard of this movie until this review. But it focuses on a woman brought back to life through strange and horrific means in the Victorian age. A young woman has the mind of a child and runs off with a lawyer on a cross-country adventure and encounters numerous challenges as she tries to find her place in this very complicated world. Now, I'll say this at the top. The film's director, Yorgos Lanthimos, who sounds like a bounty hunter working for Jabba the Hutt. He sounds like a sci-fi fantasy character, chat. And I mean, based on what he makes, you would probably think he was from another dimension, another reality, a galaxy far, far away. He's definitely made some unusual movies that are, I think, very divisive with audiences. You know, whether it be his, very ridiculous, black comedy, The Lobster, or his psychological horror thriller, The Killing of a Sacred Deer, the man has an obvious affinity for the absurd. And, that might not work for everyone, even including myself. Funny enough, my favorite movie of his is actually 2018's The Favorite. My favorite is The Favorite, which is an 18th century comedic period piece that examines like the really fraught relationships within Queen Anne's vicious royal court.
Did you just look at me? Did you? Look at me! Look at me! How dare you!
It's probably his most mainstream and coherent movie, and I think it features just some fantastic performances from Olivia Colman, who I think won Best Actress that year, to Rachel Weisz and Emma Stone, who I feel like were also nominated for that movie, and Nicholas Hoult. He only has like a little bit of screen time in that film. Every time he's on screen, he's incredible. Man, Nicholas Hoult, he's just one of those actors where you never know what you're going to get with him.
Oh, look, a wren. How cute.
Whether it be something in like Mad Max Fury Road or The Favorite, hell, even something like Renfield. That's why I'm also like super excited for him to play Lex Luthor, chat. But just a fantastic film. So going into Poor Things, I was wondering what Yorgos Lanthimos we were gonna get. The absurd and surreal, or the more mainstream and grounded. In the case of this film, it's a bit of both. I would say, in terms of the world and the production design, which we're seeing through the eyes of Emma Stone's character of Bella. It's over the top, it's very unusual, and it's filled with just an assortment of different color palettes. Some very bright and shiny and vivid, and others just monochromatic. But the performances are more reminiscent of something from The Favorite, which is great. Where we have these, big, passionate personalities bumping up against each other that are both, again, very comedic in nature and dramatic all at the same time. You have a number of great performances throughout this film, including like Willem Dafoe as the monstrous-looking but surprisingly reserved Dr. Baxter. He's pretty much the Dr. Frankenstein of the film. He's created like all these different monstrosities, and he's the one that creates the character of Bella. He's as broken inside as he is outside. His experiments are pretty much representative of his abuse on his own very, very grotesque body that is like literally falling apart before our very eyes. Mark Ruffalo, I'm gonna tell you right now, Mark Ruffalo gives one of the best performances of his entire career in the film as the petulant, selfish, always obnoxious Duncan the lawyer, who becomes obsessed with Bella and wants to run away with her across the world. His performance is very similar to like Olivia Colman's from The Favorite, in that everything that he does in the movie is just so instinctual. It's motivated by just pure hilarious selfishness. He's so childlike, even though he views himself as the superior one to Bella, who is so often childlike. But as she matures throughout the movie, he becomes more and more ridiculous as it goes. Mark Ruffalo throughout his career, he's played so many like very selfless and kind characters, whether it be in something like Spotlight, like, a journalist trying to expose the corruption within the Catholic Church, or even as Bruce Banner in the Avengers films. And so to just see him like let go in a film like this, and just constantly just be at an 11, being so selfish, so obnoxious, but at the same time, not to the point where it's like annoying. You can't help but just laugh at him and giggle at him when he tries to take himself so seriously and so epically fails. He is infinitely entertaining in the movie, and he gives, I think, one of the best supporting performances of the year. I mean, I think a lot of these actors are going to get attention, possibly Willem Dafoe, who I think, we usually, when we think of Willem Dafoe, we think, we think of the Green Goblin. We think of hard, we think of that, right? But this one's a little bit different. And I kind of like that. Maybe some people might be taken aback, but I think Mark Ruffalo is definitely going to be getting a lot of more attention for this character. One, it just helps that he's just so different than what he's been over the last, really decade, I suppose, at this point. But the real standout is Emma Stone, who clearly had just a great, profound experience making The Favorite with Lanthimos. This is a totally different person from her character from the Favorite. However, the character of Bella might be her best role ever, just because she is covering a huge spectrum of emotions throughout the film. She's tasked with delivering dialogue in a broad, childlike way, comedy in a broad way throughout the film. And in one moment, she'll go from like a very comedic situation to something like very dark and disturbing in the next, whether it by her physical actions or by her dialogue and the way she sells it. Like, her character, the whole premise of the movie, literally has the mind of a baby. She is a woman that died, and Willem Dafoe's Dr. Baxter said, I'm going to put her unborn baby brain inside of her brain, and we're going to see what happens. And that's pretty much what we follow for the rest of the film. And because she has the mind of a baby, a child, you just don't know what she's gonna do or say in any given scene. Maybe she'll say something like so wonderfully heartfelt or joyous that like literally, warms your heart, or she'll fucking smack you in the face to see if the blood stuff will come out of your nose. She's the very definition of a wild card in this film. And her journey is incredibly entertaining when, she's coming up in this age in Victorian times where, women are basically treated as brood mares, as cattle. And, she has all these thoughts. She's kind of unburdened by, a prototypical, growth, a prototypical childhood, since she's literally already in a grown body of a woman, despite being a child throughout much of this film. And so she's seeing the world for like what it is. And like everyone else who's just kind of never wanting to say what they want to say, she just outright says it. And that's what brings me to like my realization, like watching the movie, is that this film, funny enough, has a lot in common with Barbie. It's the weird, perverted, sexualized, always an 11 cousin of Barbie, but it's very much in that same family, in that same vein, And I think the reason why that I kind of view this not only in that same vein, but the reason why I think this is probably like a better version of Barbie is because as much I liked a lot of Barbie. I did like a lot of Barbie, but it did lose me a few times. I think the first third of the movie is pretty strong, but with Greta Gerwig, what she chose to do, she kind of chose to move away from the characters, which was working, I think, so well, telling the story through them. And she kind of had the characters, or just had people that we really didn't spend any time with, literally stand up on their soapboxes and like talk down to the audience, even if it's something I agree with. I've just never been like partial to the like, oh, we're going to stop the movie to say something. It's like, no. Say that message through your characters. Like, that's what you should do. And in the case of Poor Things, they explain that message. They get that message constantly across their characters through their dialogue. Emma Stone is Weird Barbie in the movie. It's the adventure of Weird Barbie before she eventually went to Barbie Land, because she is calling all this stuff out, but it's earned. It's earned throughout the entire film based on her constant experiences. But there's never like a moment where the film's like, all right, everybody, we're kind of going to stop the film and we're going to grab the audience by their ears and make sure that we're making eye contact and we're going to say something right now. It doesn't do that. And I really respected that. And so it's like, yeah, this is like the weirder, more evolved, at the same time kind of derpier version of Barbie. And I thought that was great. I didn't even realize it. And this whole thing was not usually brought up by me. It was brought up by my friend who's saying like, this is Barbie. And I was like, what are you talking about? But he brought it up. It's like, holy shit, it is. It absolutely is. This woman who has lived in a certain world in a certain way for so long, and then she's finally exposed, and she's naive. She doesn't know how things work, and she's exposed to the real world. And it's bizarre to her, and she calls out it's bullshit, but it's never like she goes ahead and stands in that soapbox and talks down shame. It's just her observations, and that's why it works so well. Now, I'm really praising this movie. I do think the performances are fantastic. I like its how it weaves its themes and its message through its dialogue and its characters. There are a couple things that bothered me. I think the film is a bit too long. It's over 2 hours, and like I think Lanthimos, he's like, I just want to put the camera down, just kind of show off, the production design. And it was just like, goes on for a few too many beats. It's like, all right, we can cut here. Okay, we're not cutting. We're gonna cut here now. All right, we're still not cutting. We're just gonna keep watching this. Fair enough. And so it's like you didn't need to do that. He also he's always loved to use the fisheye lens. Where we're always almost like looking through like a keyhole, like while watching the movie. And he's done that in other films. This is the most he's ever used it. But the thing is, like, he'll constantly go back and forth to being like a regular shot, and then the fisheye lens, and playing with the stuff in the foreground and the background. And I don't know, that aesthetic might not work for everybody. It might honestly give you a little whiplash while you're watching it, especially when it's just going back and forth. And so that kind of bothered me, I have to say. Even though the production on this movie, it has like a really distinct, like, beautiful look and a fantastic color. I mean, he goes through all the colors, everything, and it helps that it's like set in this whimsical version of the Victorian period, right? The other thing about it is, and this is just a personal thing, I'm not like, I don't really need a lot of sex scenes in my movies. Listen, there's plenty of like romantic movies where they don't have any sex scenes. Like, one of my favorite romantic films of all time is Silver Linings Playbook. And like there's scenes where like, Bradley Cooper's looking hot and Jennifer Lawrence looking hot. They got her ass and everything out there. It's like, this is cool. But I just feel like sex scenes are so often unnecessary. It's like, I'd rather have actually the characters continue to exchange dialogue and be intimate in that ways to tell the story. It's like, when we get to a sex scene movie, it's like everything kind of like stops and halts, and we just kind of like, well, we're going to watch these two people fuck, I'm not a prude, believe me, chat. I mean, the human body is a beautiful thing, but there's a lot of sex scenes in this movie. There's a lot of gratuitous sex. And it's, I mean, for everybody, Chad. You like the male form, you like the female form. It's all on full display. Everybody's going down each other. Everyone's sucking dicks, and it's just like cool. But I don't really need that. And I mean, Lanthimos, he likes to have sex scenes in his film. You know, there's always like an undercurrent of sexual repression and then exposure and then escape. Like, you know, like literally like you're having an orgasm. There's a lot of orgasming in this. But I don't need it. It kind of just makes it awkward to me, which is so funny because so many of the scenes in this movie could be viewed as awkward. Everything like Bella says or everything that like Mark Ruffalo's character is saying in the film. Right, which they're like, oh, like some of the things are so cringy. They go ooh, but it's not cringe in a bad way. It's cringe in like, oh my god, I can't believe they just said that, or they just did that thing. What's gonna happen next? It's like you're almost anticipating, but the sex scene's like, okay, here we go, you know. And I didn't really need that. I honestly wish they cut back on that. It felt way too gratuitous. You know, this is going to be I don't know if I'd watch this movie with your parents. I don't think I'd watch this movie with your parents and your grandparents over the holidays. This is more of a, I'm going to go see this by myself in an audience of other very uncomfortable people watching these sex scenes, or maybe with your significant other. It's like, maybe we should try something like that. Other than that, do not watch this with your family. Yeah, so that's kind of like my biggest negative thing is like, I just wish he wouldn't go into that. I'm not a prude, but I honestly think it's kind of taken away from the story itself, the characters, because everything just literally stops to just focus on these two people fucking each other. And it's just not really necessary. I think you could add like one scene. It would have been fine. And you could have references to sexual activity. That actually would have been funny if they do talk about sexual activity a lot in this film, and Bella like experiencing it for the first time and her opinions on it and everything. But I just didn't need to see it so much because it's kind of like a porno at many times throughout the entire movie. Aside from that, there's a lot that works about this, specifically the performances. Again, I think Emma Stone is incredible in this. I think Mark Ruffalo gives one of the best performing. But Emma Stone, I think, gives the best performance of her entire career. I think this is one of the best performances of Mark Ruffalo's career in a long time. I mean, it's Willem Dafoe. Willem Dafoe's always going to deliver, chat. Kind of a reserved performance from him. Still weird. Still kooky. It's still Willem Dafoe, chat. It's hard for him not to be weird in the movie. But it's not like Lighthouse level, like that. It's just, he's just fuck ugly. And, he's kind of broken inside. That's his performance. And the production design is gorgeous, absolutely gorgeous. From the sets, the costuming, the color palette, really good. The score was, I thought the score was fine. I thought the score was okay. It's a little unusual. Didn't really, stand out to me in terms of like, I want to listen to this. It's like, this is epic. It's like, it's all right. But, I think, hey, if you want to go there, you want to see some fine performances, some fantastic dialogue, some great, just consistent interaction between these characters. It's like, I think you'll get a lot out of this movie. But if you're kind of turned off by just weirdness, just constant, consistent weirdness, and maybe just constant gratuitous sex, then I don't know. You might want to wait and watch this by yourself, and not a theater filled with people, which you can all be awkward with. Sit in silent awkwardness. But yeah, I really enjoyed Poor Things. It's not up there. Doesn't go above the favorite. It has a lot in common with the favorite. I think I probably like this better than. I definitely like this better than The Lobster and A Sacred Deer. I've not seen all of his filmography, his stuff before he did like The Lobster and stuff. I want to eventually check that out. But this is like, yeah, there's a lot that works about this. And I want to consistently see him work with Emma Stone because the two of them are just literally in sync of each other. They're great. I really like their working relationship. And of course, really the whole supporting cast does a great job. Even some of the names I don't know, like great characters in this movie throughout. But yeah, that's just my opinion on Poor Things. Probably one of the most unusual movies released this year. What about you guys? Did you guys like the film like I did? The performances and the dialogue and the production design? Or were you kind of turned off by it? Did you not like it because of the overall just consistent weirdness and I think some of the unnecessary gratuitous sex stuff? Let me know.
5 minutes later.
I heard someone describe Emma Stone's performance as being like simple from Tropic Thunder, but grew on them quick.
You make me happy.
I can kind of see that. I can, yeah. Well, because, you know, throughout a good portion of the movie, she's like a baby in an adult body. And so she's a little derpy. Not a little derpy. She's very fucking derpy. And she is the physicality. Her physical performance, like she must have been exhausted in between scenes, in between takes. Like I could not imagine like how she's jumping around and flopping around and hitting people. I mean, chaos. I mean, she must have just like, give me a goddamn second before you get everything going again. All right, hold on. Like she probably needed a breather.